for those who remember Gary when he was less cringe, crazy, and fascist, was a bit of a right-wing nutcase, but still he was somewhat reasonable with his interpretations, and he wasn't the biggest comic book expert, but he did a good enough job. But now he's full-on propagandist, so we're checking in if he's improved at all, and sorry to say, not really. So let's try to give him a chance in his cuckoo conspiracy about what he alleges is wrong with the MCU.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is not a sequel to The Wasp and Ant-Man, and yes, I did get that name right. It's actually a sequel to Loki that you don't need to watch to understand what happened in Loki, which was terrible as well. Just a reminder, everything up to the final episode of Loki was Kang's will. There was no free will in the MCU. And the MCU absolutely failing is making for strange bedfellows. The critic score is currently at 48% on Rotten Tomatoes.
MSheu. Well, the major characters in Ant-Man 3 are Ant-Man and Kang, and yes, Janet. So we have two major male characters in Janet. So at least in terms of the numbers, you're wrong. Okay, so you're lying. We're not starting off very well, but hopefully this will get better in terms of his interpretation of this Phase 5 film.
And thanks to the movie magic, you're probably not going to recognize it because you don't see any cars broken into, you don't see any homeless people high on fentanyl, and you don't see any poop on the sidewalk. And once again, we get to see fan favorite Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, and just like in the previous film that's not connected to this one in any way, shape, or form, he takes a back seat in his own movie. That's right, I had to change shirts to something a little more appropriate. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, Paul Rudd plays Scott Lang, or Ant-Man, and once again, he's reduced to a guest starring role in his own film. You have to admire Disney Marvel's consistency on this.
Well, is Paul Rudd taking a backseat? No. He is front and center. Him and Kang get a lot, and I do mean a lot of screen time. Now, technically, Kang is not in this film that much, but he is moving and driving the story forward. But are there a lot of female characters? Yes. But their roles are a little bit all over the place. In fact, in some cases, gender is hard to assign. Like Veb, is Veb a male, female? Don't quite know. I would assume Quaz is a male. Again, don't quite know. And there are, a lot of characters where it's a little bit all over the place. We do see an actual male with power with Bill Murray, so again, he's being deceptive. There are men with power in this film. How much power? It is a little fuzzy. So, again, we're still not getting confirmation on this conspiracy theory. Let's keep going.
The very strange case of Evangeline Lilly playing Wasp, or Hope Van Dyne, who never took her father's last name, but she does take over her father's company. We get a brief girl boss montage moment.
She's very comfortable in that role, and she thrives in that role, and she's doing incredible things all around the world for global warming and, housing crises and all different kinds of things like that.
How dare you!
And then Wasp, an OG Avenger and a legit female Marvel character, unlike Ironheart, America Chavez, or a knockoff Miss Marvel, gets reduced to being a guest star in her own film. I wonder if it has something to do with Evangeline Lilly's version.
Okay, so you're contradicting yourself. You're saying simultaneously the MCU is filled with girl bosses, and you're using Wasp as confirmation. However, simultaneously you're saying they diminished her role. Well, which is it? Does she have a lot of power as a girl boss or not? You'd have to explain. And your explanation is, she is a girl boss, but they diminished her because of her political stance on vaccinations. Okay, but again, that is a contradiction, because you're saying she took power from Hank Pym. So which is it? Is she powerful or powerless? Don't quite know. So there we are. So far, just a lot of lying propaganda. But don't worry, he does at least hit on one legitimate issue.
Or Michael Douglas playing Hank Pym is essentially just a background character and used as comic relief in a film that stars a character that's supposed to be comic relief that isn't funny. And I was okay with the thought of this being a serious film, as two of the trailers tried to present, but it really wasn't. But the star of this picture is Janet Van Dyne, played by Michelle Pfeiffer.
Well, I agree. Yeah, Hank Pym was not well used in this film, and that's pretty sad. In fact, Michael Douglas has been kind of public about this. He's kind of joked if they will use him again, hopefully they'll just kill him off. Yeah, you can tell he was kind of disappointed. He is good in this film. He's actually very, very good. And no, they don't take away his penis. No, they don't mock him all the time. He is only allowed to be kind of heroic in a few moments. They're good moments. He actually kind of saves the film, literally, at the very end. I thought that was a very strong moment, but again, it's not enough of him. I wish we had more Bill Murray, too. Yeah, some of the male characters were sidelined, but then same thing with the female characters. We don't get enough with this entire resistance force that they've aligned, or some of the new characters, or even the old characters. It's very uneven film. But let's get to the coup de grace that proves that this is definitely MSheu conspiracy land.
This Casey is nothing like the Casey you just watched, not only because they recast from Emma Fuhrman, who showed more emotion in that short scene than her replacement, Catherine Newton, could in the entirety of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now she's gone from a cute little girl to a young woman who is grateful to see her dad to a slightly younger, insufferable SJW know-it-all who was arrested for peaceful protesting the removal of homeless people because they haven't resolved that from the blip. I guess Senator Do Better didn't do better, and neither did Black Falcon Captain America.
You've got to do better, Senator.
I'm sort of torn on this. I don't like what they did with, I guess we're calling her Casey, or is it Cassie? Anyway, the new daughter. And he is correct, they've recast this role now 3 times. And Newton isn't working out for me. I do prefer the older versions. And the one with Endgame was, yes, I will agree, very emotively powerful. And they kind of just threw that away. So he hit upon a few legitimate issues. However, this is normal, especially with Kang. And if he were at least honest, he'd acknowledge that, saying that, listen, this happens regularly with comics. Kang has been retconned many times. For the most part, they've maintained consistency. So it could be, again, I'm not defending the film, it could be these alleged plot holes will be resolved through the time paradoxes that Kang creates. Maybe, maybe not. I would agree this is a very poor film in many ways, but there is a lot of good stuff in there.